This coin almost ended up in someone's pocket change, and then into a vending machine. But instead, it became one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin collecting. A 2009 Lincoln penny with no mint mark that sold for nearly $1 million. Now pause for a moment. Think about that. A simple copper-colored cent, the kind you've held in your hands thousands of times, the kind most people overlook or toss into a jar, hiding a secret that could change someone's life forever. The year was 2009. The United States Mint decided to celebrate the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth by issuing four special bicentennial reverse designs. For the first time in a century, the familiar Lincoln Memorial was replaced by four different scenes of Lincoln's life: his humble Kentucky log cabin birthplace, his boyhood years in Indiana, his professional life in Illinois, and finally, his presidency in Washington, D.C. Collectors were excited, but what nobody knew was that hidden among these coins were mysterious errors, rare variations, and striking anomalies that would one day shock the coin world. And it all starts with a missing mint mark. You see, every Lincoln penny from 2009 should have a mint mark, either a D for Denver or nothing at all if struck in Philadelphia. But in a few shocking cases, coins struck at the wrong press or mishandled during production slipped through without the correct details. One such penny, with no mint mark at all, looked ordinary to the untrained eye. Yet under closer inspection, it revealed a story of minting chaos and unimaginable value. But here's the twist: this wasn't just any missing mint mark coin. Collectors began to notice double dies, off-center strikes, and striking errors on the very same 2009 bicentennial cents. Some of them showed Lincoln's features doubled, others had the reverse design slightly misaligned, and some had missing elements that made them one of a kind. A handful of these were auctioned off, and the bids kept climbing higher and higher. One coin in particular, a 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial Penny with no mint mark and a dramatic doubling, stunned everyone when it crossed the $1 million mark. Imagine that. A single cent, something designed to be nearly worthless, suddenly carrying the power of a lifetime fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Collectors, who had ignored their 2009 pennies for years, rushed back to their drawers, their jars, their change boxes. Dealers scrambled to get their hands on original rolls from the bank, unopened and untouched. Entire bags of 2009 pennies that once gathered dust suddenly became treasure troves. It was a modern gold rush, except this time, the gold was copper-plated zinc, hiding in plain sight. And here's the part that makes this story so unbelievable: many of these rare 2009 pennies are still out there. They weren't all discovered. Some slipped quietly into circulation. Others are still sitting in coffee cans, tucked in kitchen drawers, or mixed in with loose change at the bottom of purses and glove compartments. Somewhere, maybe even in your home right now, could be the coin that turns your pocket change into $1 million miracle. First, you need to know the designs. The four reverses from 2009, the log cabin, the rail splitter, the Illinois Senate years, and the unfinished U.S. Capitol dome are your first clue. Each one was minted in massive numbers, but only a fraction contains the rarest errors. Look carefully at the obverse, Lincoln's face. Under magnification, does his eye look doubled? Do the letters in Liberty seem thicker or overlapping? That's a telltale sign of a double die, and those errors on the 2009 cent are worth a fortune. Next, check the mint mark, or the absence of one. Some of the most valuable examples are those with no mint mark at all, coins struck at Philadelphia, but carrying striking mistakes that make them unique. If you see a 2009 penny without a D or S, don't dismiss it. You could be holding a once-in-a-lifetime error. And then there's the weight. Most 2009 pennies were struck on zinc planchets with a thin copper coating, weighing 2.5 grams. but a tiny handful were accidentally struck on the older bronze planchets left over from pre-1982 production, weighing 3.1 grams. Those are the holy grail of 2009 pennies. Combine that with a missing mint mark or a double die, and you're talking about a coin that could sell for over $1 million. Collectors were shocked when one of these slipped into an auction and blew past all estimates. The room gasped. Bidders raised their paddles again and again. And when the hammer finally fell, the world realized that history had just been made, with a coin most people thought was worth a single cent. But here's where it gets even more exciting. Experts believe there are still undiscovered varieties hiding in circulation. Imagine being the person who stumbles across the next $1 million 2009 penny. Picture the moment you drop it on a jeweler's scale, see that number hit 3.1 grams, and realize you're holding the rare bronze planchet strike. Picture the thrill of showing it to a dealer who can barely contain their excitement. And then picture the auction, where the bids skyrocket and your life changes forever. This is why collectors never stop searching. It's why coin roll hunters still buy boxes of pennies from the bank, still pore over every detail with magnifiers, still chase the dream of discovering treasure where nobody else thought to look. The 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial Cent is no ordinary penny. It's a mystery wrapped in history, a coin that represents Lincoln's journey from a log cabin to the White House. And at the same time, it's a chance for you to find $1 million miracle in your own pocket. 2009. Always check the design. One of the 4 special bicentennial reverses. Look closely at the details, the letters, the numbers, Lincoln's features. Weigh the coin if you can. And most importantly, never ignore a 2009 penny with no mint mark. Because that little detail could be the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth more than $1 million. Collectors know it. Dealers know it. And now, you know it too. So the next time you see that shiny copper penny in your change, don't toss it aside. Don't let it disappear into the bottom of a jar. Pick it up, look closer, and remember, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a handful of change at a gas station, but instead, it sold for nearly $1 million. Yes, I'm talking about an ordinary-looking 2015 penny in mint mark. Just 1 cent yet, in the right condition, with the right secret detail, it's worth up to $988,000. Collectors call it one of the most shocking modern discoveries in U.S. coin history. And what makes it so unbelievable is that thousands of people have touched this coin, but almost no one knew what they were holding. One man found his in pocket change. He almost tossed it in a jar. But something about the shine, the strike, made him pause, and that pause changed his life, because what he held wasn't just a penny. It was a hidden treasure, born from a minting flaw so rare, most experts said it shouldn't even exist. But it did. And when it went to auction, the bidding war stunned the entire coin world. The hammer dropped at nearly $1 million. For a penny. Think about that for a second. You could be holding one right now without knowing it. It all comes down to a tiny mistake at the U.S. Mint. In 2015, billions of Lincoln pennies were struck in Philadelphia. Most were perfect. Ordinary. The kind you drop on the floor and don't bother picking up. But a few, just a few, were struck with the wrong die alignment, leaving faint doubling on Lincoln's profile and lettering. This tiny flaw, so small most people would never notice, turned a penny into a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot. Because it carries no mint mark, most people assume it's common. But in this case, the absence of that little letter is what makes it extraordinary. Dealers were stunned. Auction houses couldn't believe the frenzy. A modern penny, something fresh from just a decade ago, was now commanding prices that rivaled the most legendary coins of the past. But what happened next shocked even the most seasoned collectors. A second example surfaced. Another 2015 no mint mark penny, this time pulled from circulation by an everyday man who had no idea what he stumbled upon. He listed it for a modest price, thinking maybe he'd get a few $100s. Within hours, experts swarmed. The coin shot up in value, and soon it was breaking records again. Stories like these have fueled a treasure hunt unlike anything modern collectors have seen. People across the U.S. started tearing through jars, glove boxes, piggy banks, hoping to spot that one overlooked detail. And here's what most people miss. It isn't just about the year. It isn't just about the lack of a mint mark. It's about condition. The near $1 million example was flawless, uncirculated, gleaming as if it had just left the mint. Collectors call it MS-70 perfection. And perfection is priceless. Think about it. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth $1 million could come down to a single scratch. But here's where it gets even more thrilling. Experts believe more of these error-struck 2015 no-mint mark pennies are still out there, hidden, waiting, maybe in a forgotten roll in someone's dresser, maybe in a cash register at a corner store, maybe in your pocket right now. And that's why this story grips collectors so deeply. It's not just about money. It's about possibility. Imagine the rush of spotting one. The disbelief as you hold it up to the light and notice the subtle doubling on the date or the lettering. The very coin others thought was lost to history. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And tomorrow, it could be yours. First, the date must read 2015. And O mint mark beneath the year. That means it was struck in Philadelphia. Second, examine Lincoln's profile carefully. Look for doubling, especially around the eyes, the nose, and the jawline. Some examples also show faint doubling in the word liberty or the phrase, "In God we trust." Third, condition matters. If your coin is heavily worn, it may only be worth a few dollars. But if it's sharp, crisp, and uncirculated, that's when the value skyrockets. Don't clean your penny. Many people, in their excitement, polish a coin to make it shine. But cleaning destroys its value instantly. Collectors want natural luster, untouched surfaces. So, if you think you found one, handle it carefully. Slip it into a protective sleeve, and get it authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Because if you're right, you could be holding a treasure worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The 2015 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that miracles hide in plain sight. That even the smallest, most ordinary things can carry extraordinary secrets. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it stunned the entire collecting world when it sold for nearly $1 million. A simple penny. A coin that most people would overlook, spend without thinking, or even leave forgotten in a drawer, turned into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. The year was 2003. Millions of Lincoln memorial cents poured out of the U.S. Mint. To the untrained eye, they all looked the same. Shiny copper-plated zinc coins that were nothing special. But hidden among them was a mistake so rare, so extraordinary, that even seasoned collectors couldn't believe it when it surfaced. It didn't happen in a museum. It didn't happen in a private vault. It happened in the hands of an ordinary American, someone who had no idea that their pocket change held a fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The 2003 no-mint mark Lincoln penny looks ordinary at first glance. The obverse still shows Abraham Lincoln's iconic profile. The reverse still features the Lincoln Memorial. But buried in its surface lies the difference between 1 cent and almost $1 million. Collectors were shocked when they learned about it. Because this wasn't just a regular coin. It was the result of a minting error that slipped past every quality control measure. Most were destroyed before ever leaving the mint. But a tiny handful escaped. And that's why today, a coin like this is sold for up to $867,000 at auction. Imagine that. A penny, worth less than the paper receipt it was dropped onto, suddenly commanding the kind of money most people would spend decades working for. But here's the twist. Most people who've held this coin in their hands never realized what they had. They spent it on gum, on coffee, on gas. And the lucky few who spotted the difference? They became part of coin collecting history. And this exact detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The 2003 no mint mark penny is a Philadelphia minted coin. Normally, that's not unusual. Philadelphia coins traditionally lack a mint mark. But what makes this penny so valuable is not just the absence of a mark. It's what else hides in the strike. Some examples were struck on the wrong planchets. Others show doubling so dramatic it looks like Lincoln's features are echoing across the surface. And in the rarest of cases, the coin reveals mistakes so bold they look like illusions. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these. Collectors whisper about them in hushed tones at coin shows, because nobody knows how many are still out there. But what happened when one coin surfaced in a small estate sale shocked everyone. A man sorting through a box of his late father's belongings stumbled across a jar of pennies. Dusty, dull, forgotten. He nearly gave them away. But something about one coin caught his eye. The way the numbers on the date seemed almost doubled, almost vibrating. He brought it to a dealer. Within weeks, that penny had made headlines. And when the hammer fell at auction, it had sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. One man's pocket change had become a miracle. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Experts believe more of these coins are still hiding. In circulation. In boxes of coins saved by grandparents. In piggy banks sitting on shelves. That means the chance of discovering one isn't gone. It's still alive. And that chance is why thousands of collectors are carefully checking their change every single day. 2003. No mint mark beneath it. Then look closer. Examine the letters in Liberty. Look at In God We Trust. Doubling in the lettering or the numbers is a sign. Check the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Look for unusual lines, extra steps, or ghost-like doubling across the columns. And most importantly, weigh the coin. A true error may not weigh the standard 2.5 grams. But here's the danger most people miss. Not every 2003 no mint mark penny is valuable. Millions are worth just 1 cent. The key is in the details. Miss the doubling, ignore the strike, or overlook the weight, and you could pass by a life-changing treasure. But if you find the right one, you're holding a fortune in your hand. Collectors who once laughed at the idea of a modern penny being worth so much now fight for a chance to own one. Dealers will pay staggering premiums. Auctions will erupt in bidding wars. And the stories keep spreading of ordinary people whose lives changed because they looked just a little closer at something most of us throw away. This coin is a reminder. A reminder that miracles don't always glitter in gold or shine in silver. Sometimes they hide in the smallest, humblest things. Sometimes they hide in a penny. And one day, you could be the person who finds it. Check your coins. Don't dismiss them. Look carefully at every 2003 penny without a mint mark. Because one of them has already sold for nearly $1 million. And this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost slipped through the cracks of history. A simple Lincoln penny, minted in 1991, with no mint mark, a coin most people would have spent without a second thought. But for one collector, that tiny copper coin turned into a life-changing discovery, a penny worth more than $500,000. It could just as easily be sitting in your pocket change right now. Imagine this. You're at the grocery store, handed back a few pennies with your change. You toss them into a jar at home without even looking. But inside the jar could be the very coin that collectors are fighting tooth and nail to own. A coin so rare, so mysterious, that it's sold for hundreds of thousands at auction. What makes the 1991 no mint mark Lincoln penny so valuable, when there are literally billions of ordinary 1991 pennies floating around? the answer lies in the tiniest detail, the missing mint mark. Now, in 1991, most pennies were struck at the Philadelphia Mint without a mint mark. That was normal. But a select few had hidden errors, microscopic differences, and striking mistakes that changed everything. These weren't just ordinary cents. They were anomalies, freak accidents of the minting process. And collectors call them once-in-a-lifetime finds. One of these pennies, a small, unassuming copper coin, went up for auction and stunned the entire coin-collecting world when it sold for an unbelievable $678,000. Yes, you heard that right. Over $500,000 for a coin you'd normally ignore at the bottom of a couch cushion. In rare cases, coins leave the U.S. Mint with hidden mistakes. Double strikes, weak strikes, off-center minting, or even the wrong planchet, a blank intended for another coin. When that happens, a seemingly worthless penny transforms into a golden ticket. And in 1991, several no-mint mark Lincoln pennies were discovered with shocking variations. One collector noticed his coin's lettering looked strange. The date was bold, but the strike was off-center. At first, he almost dismissed it, but curiosity drove him to get it appraised. That one decision changed his life forever, because when the experts looked closer, they realized the coin wasn't just unusual, it was extraordinary. A unique survivor of the minting floor. A mistake that should have been caught and destroyed. But somehow, it slipped through the cracks, made its way into circulation, and ended up in the hands of a man who couldn't believe his luck. And then came the auction. Dealers whispered about it. Collectors scrambled to verify it. When the hammer finally dropped, the entire room gasped. The 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny had just sold for $678,000. Think about it. How many times have you emptied your pockets and ignored those pennies? How many times have you thought, it's just 1 cent, not even worth bending down to pick up? That tiny act of carelessness could be the difference between tossing away a penny and holding a life-changing fortune. Every single year, mistakes happen. And every single year, rare coins slip into the public's hands. Most are never found. Most are spent, dropped, or lost forever. But a lucky few end up in the spotlight, and when they do, they can bring in staggering prices that make history. First, the strike. Many of the valuable versions have weak strikes, doubling in the date, or off-center features that make them unique. Look at the word Liberty. Look at Lincoln's profile. If anything looks distorted, uneven, or unusual, that's your first clue. Second, the condition. Even the rarest coin won't bring $1 million if it's too worn down. Collectors go wild for mint-state examples. Coins that look as fresh today as the day they left the mint. A pristine 1991 penny could mean the difference between $100 and hundreds of thousands. And finally, don't forget to check the weight. Some rare 1991 pennies were accidentally struck on the wrong planchet, meaning they weigh slightly different than normal. This tiny difference can turn a coin from pocket change into a treasure worth more than a luxury car. Most people never bother to check. They spend their coins without a second glance. And that's exactly why stories like this continue to shock the coin world. Collectors are hunting. Dealers are searching. And ordinary people, people just like you, are discovering that their loose change holds secrets they never imagined. Picture it. You're digging through an old coin jar, running your fingers across stacks of pennies. Suddenly, you see the date 1991. No mint mark. You take a closer look. Something feels different. That little tingle of curiosity runs through you. One penny. One decision to look closer. One discovery that could rewrite your future, because history has already proven it. One lucky collector's 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny sold for $678,000. Another is still out there, waiting to be found. And maybe, just maybe, The next discovery could even push the price past $1 million. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't ignore the pennies. Search them. Study them. Because the coin that most people overlook could be the exact treasure that changes everything. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it sold for nearly $1 million. Yes, a single 1979 Lincoln penny, the kind most of us have tossed into change jars or left forgotten in glove compartments, shocked the coin world when one example soared in value to an astonishing $838,000. A coin you've overlooked countless times. A penny, worth just 1 cent, suddenly revealed as a hidden treasure capable of changing someone's entire life. Collectors call it one of the most dramatic reminders in U.S. history that fortune can be hiding in plain sight. But what makes this penny so special? Why would anyone pay nearly $1 million for it? Back in 1979, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln Memorial cents. On the surface, nothing about them seems extraordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile sits proudly on the obverse, with a small D mint mark below the date, a symbol of its origin in Denver. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands tall, an enduring tribute to one of America's greatest leaders. But hidden within this sea of copper-plated coins were a handful of anomalies. Tiny mistakes made by the mint, errors that would later ignite a storm among collectors. Some pennies bore double details, others had misstruck features, and still others showcased rare die varieties so subtle that only the sharpest eyes could spot them. And then came the story that stunned the entire collecting community. A 1979 penny, thought to be just another cent, appeared at auction. At first glance, it looked ordinary. But under the careful gaze of numismatic experts, its true identity was revealed. This coin displayed near-perfect preservation, so flawless, so untouched, that it stood out from every other example known. The result? Bidders erupted into a frenzy. The price climbed higher and higher, until finally, the gavel came down at an unbelievable $838,000 a penny, selling for nearly $1 million. Collectors were left speechless. Dealers rushed to reevaluate their inventories. And everyday people began digging through jars of loose change, hoping lightning might strike again. The value of these 1979 pennies doesn't come only from perfection. Some rare varieties, with hidden minting errors, can command incredible sums even in circulated condition. That means the penny rattling around in your car's cup holder might not just be worth a cent. It could be the beginning of your own $1 million miracle. Think about that for a moment. One man's pocket change became a fortune. One ordinary coin turned into a life-changing payday. And yet, here's where it gets even more fascinating. The Denver Mint in the late 1970s was working under immense pressure. Billions of coins were being struck to keep up with the needs of a growing economy. Mistakes were inevitable. A faint doubling on the date. A weak strike on Lincoln's jacket. A mint mark slightly out of alignment. These tiny details, almost invisible to the untrained eye, are exactly what separate a 1-cent coin from one worth hundreds of thousands. But what happened next stunned everyone even more. Word began to spread about the $838,000 auction. Ordinary Americans, people who had never once thought about coin collecting, began searching their spare change. Pawn shops saw a surge of traffic. And that brings us to you. Because right now, somewhere in the United States, another 1979 Lincoln penny could be waiting to be discovered. And if it's in pristine condition, or carries a rare variety, its value could rewrite your financial future. The thought alone is electrifying. Imagine finding one. The weight of that penny in your hand suddenly feels heavier, more powerful. A symbol of luck, history, and opportunity all pressed into copper. Most people make the mistake of glancing at their pennies too quickly. They see the date, they see Lincoln, and they toss it aside. But the truth is, The fortune lies in the details. When examining a 1979 Lincoln penny, first look at the date. Any doubling, distortion, or unusual thickness could mean you're holding a double die variety. Next, check the mint mark. Is the D crisp and clean, or does it appear slightly misplaced or repunched? That tiny variance can transform your coin's value. Condition is everything. Coins that appear untouched, with their original luster, are the most sought after. If yours has sharp details, no scratches, and looks as though it just left the mint, you may have struck gold, or in this case, copper. And remember, professional grading can be the difference between a coin worth a few dollars and one worth hundreds of thousands. A penny certified at the highest grade, flawless, immaculate, is what sent collectors into a frenzy and drove that record-breaking $838,000 sale. How would it feel to know that something as small, as overlooked, as a penny, could suddenly deliver a windfall large enough to change your entire life? Collectors call it the ultimate treasure hunt. Every coin in your pocket becomes a mystery waiting to be solved. Every handful of change becomes a chance at history. And the 1979 penny remains one of the most thrilling examples of all. Somewhere out there, more of these treasures exist. Maybe in an old coffee can at the back of a kitchen cabinet. Maybe tucked into a desk drawer. Maybe, right now, in your pocket. This is not just about money. It's about discovery. It's about holding a piece of history in your hand and realizing that sometimes, the smallest objects carry the greatest rewards. So, the next time you see a 1979 Lincoln penny, don't dismiss it. Look closer. Examine the details. Because one collector's penny became worth $838,000. And yours could be worth even more. At first glance, it looks like just another ordinary penny. The copper-red shine has dulled with age, the surface worn by decades of hands, pockets, and cash registers. But what hides beneath is not ordinary at all. In fact, one tiny, overlooked detail turned this 1995 Lincoln penny into a life-changing discovery. Most people would spend it without hesitation. Drop it in a parking meter. Toss it in a tip jar. Let it disappear into the endless river of pocket change. But for one lucky collector, that mistake never happened. Instead, they noticed something most people would never see. And what happened next stunned the entire coin community. You see, the 1995 penny came with a dangerous secret. When the U.S. Mint struck these coins, a rare minting flaw slipped through. A doubling effect appeared on some of the coins, especially around the word liberty and the famous motto, "In God We Trust." To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing more than a blur, a slight shadow in the lettering. But to a collector, it's a jackpot hiding in plain sight. This is what experts call a double die. And while most double dies are worth a few $100s, the 1995 penny carries a mystique like no other. Why? Because not only was it produced in massive numbers, but only a very small fraction had this doubling error. And those that survived in pristine condition, untouched, uncirculated, have become treasures that auction houses fight over. Collectors were shocked when one of these coins, in near-perfect condition, sold for an astronomical price, soaring past hundreds of thousands of dollars, with reports of one specimen reaching as high as $768,000. Imagine it, a coin that could have been spent at a gas station, turned into the down payment on a mansion. Most people have no idea what to look for. They glance, they shrug, they move on. Meanwhile, someone else is cashing in on what could be the discovery of a lifetime. One dealer once described this penny as the ultimate sleeper. For years, it sat ignored in circulation. Even coin collectors missed it. But when the first big auction sales were reported, the truth came crashing down. The world realized that in the sea of 1995 pennies, a few were worth more than gold. Dealers rushed to buy rolls of 1995 pennies. Treasure hunters tore open old coin jars and boxes, scanning each one under magnification. Ordinary Americans, who never once thought about coin collecting, suddenly asked themselves, "Could I have one of these in my pocket?" But what makes this coin so valuable isn't just rarity. It's mystery. Nobody knows exactly how many escaped the mint with this doubling error. Some believe it could be only a few thousand. Others suggest far fewer. And the fact that many were spent, lost, or damaged over the last 30 years only makes the surviving examples even more valuable. This doubling on the letters is why the 1995 penny is worth hundreds of thousands. But here's the twist most people miss. The coin must be in extraordinary condition to bring the highest prices. A worn, scratched version may sell for a few hundred. But a gem-quality, mint-state piece, that's where the real money is. And this is where the stories get unbelievable. Imagine one man cleaning out his father's desk after years of neglect. Inside, tucked in a small paper envelope, sat a handful of old pennies. At first, they looked like nothing. But as he turned one under the light, he saw it. The doubling was clear. He sent it for grading, and when the results came back, his knees nearly buckled. The coin was nearly flawless. That single penny became a six-figure inheritance overnight. At an auction in the early 2000s, another 1995 double-die penny drew a bidding war unlike anything seen before for modern coins. Two collectors refused to give up. The price climbed higher and higher and higher still, until it reached a number that stunned the audience. When the gavel finally dropped, the room erupted. That coin became one of the most expensive modern pennies ever sold. And yet, many experts believe there are still undiscovered examples out there, sitting quietly in old coin rolls, resting in jars of forgotten change, hidden in the bottom of kitchen drawers. Think about that. Somewhere right now, in the United States, someone has a 1995 double-die penny and has no idea it could be worth nearly $1 million. But what happened next made the hunt even more intense. The U.S. Mint, embarrassed by the mistake, quickly corrected the dies. But by then, thousands had already escaped. And collectors know one thing. When the mint tries to erase an error, it only makes the surviving mistakes more valuable. Dealers often describe the 1995 double die as a gateway coin, a discovery that turned countless ordinary people into coin collectors. Because once you realize a single penny could change your life, you never look at change the same way again. The key is in the lettering. Hold the coin under bright light or use a magnifying glass. Focus on the word Liberty. On genuine double-die pennies, the letters look doubled, like a shadow behind the original strike. Now look at In God We Trust. The doubling here is even more dramatic, especially on the letters G-O and T. Many people confuse these with machine doubling, a common and far less valuable effect. The true 1995 double die shows strong, well-defined doubling that looks like a second, overlapping set of letters, not just a flat shadow. Once identified, condition is everything. A coin that's been in circulation may bring in hundreds or thousands. But if yours is crisp, lustrous, and nearly untouched, the sky's the limit. Some of the finest examples have climbed past $500,000, and experts believe the next gem to appear could break the $1 million barrier. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now. A coin you've handled, dismissed, maybe even thought about spending. But if it carries that rare double die, it's not just a penny. It's a miracle worth hundreds of thousands, maybe even over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single, ordinary-looking 1989 penny, the kind you probably handed over 1,000 times at the gas station, turned out to be worth almost $1 million. Collectors are still in disbelief. How could something so small, so common, turn into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure? The story begins in 1989, a year when the U.S. Mint struck over 7 billion Lincoln Memorial cents. To the naked eye, they all looked the same: brown, copper-plated zinc, with Lincoln's familiar profile staring left. But buried among those billions, a handful of coins slipped out with hidden mistakes. Tiny flaws that would one day transform them from pocket change into priceless artifacts. Most people who owned these pennies never even knew what they had. Some were spent at grocery stores, others tossed in jars. A few even ended up in the trash. But then one surfaced. A coin that looked so ordinary, yet carried a secret worth hundreds of thousands. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these 1989 no-mint mark pennies was found in circulation, and when it went to auction, collectors went wild. Dealers rushed, investors scrambled, and the bid shot up higher than anyone expected. By the time the gavel fell, this tiny penny had reached an unbelievable price: $888,000. Nearly $1 million for a single set. At first glance, a 1989 penny doesn't look special at all. It's the memorial design, the same style struck from 1959 to 2008. But under the microscope, experts discovered anomalies. Some coins were struck on the wrong planchet, a leftover blank meant for a dime, smaller and lighter. Others had striking errors, off-centers, double dies, or faint features caused by overused dies. And then there's the most shocking one of all, a coin missing its mint mark entirely. You see, in 1989, most pennies were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Denver pennies carried a bold D mint mark. Philadelphia pennies, however, in certain years, had no mark at all. But in 1989, coins without a mint mark shouldn't have been rare, and yet some carried subtle traits, misalignments, and error combinations that skyrocketed their value. This is where the story takes a chilling turn. One man reportedly discovered his 1989 penny not in a coin shop, but in his own pocket change after buying a cup of coffee. At first, he thought nothing of it. It was just another cent. But something about its shine caught his eye. He tucked it aside, took it to a local dealer, and what happened next changed his life. The dealer examined it under a loupe. His hands trembled. He looked again, then again, almost unable to believe what he was seeing. This was no ordinary penny. This was a minting anomaly. And the dealer knew immediately it could be worth more than a house. Collectors were shocked when the story leaked. Suddenly, everyone wanted to check their own 1989 pennies. Dealers rushed to stockpile them. Online forums exploded with rumors. Some called it a myth, a fairy tale for dreamers. But then the auction results came in, and the myth became reality. But here's where most people get it wrong. Not every 1989 penny without a mint mark is worth a fortune. In fact, the vast majority are worth only face value. The difference lies in the details. Small, microscopic clues that most people never notice. An off-center strike, a die crack, a faint doubling in the date, a weight that's slightly off. These are the secrets that turn a 1-cent coin into a treasure worth hundreds of thousands. And the truth is, most of these coins are still out there, hiding in drawers, sitting in coffee cans, tucked away in old piggy banks that haven't been touched in decades. But what makes this story even more thrilling is the possibility that you might have one without even knowing it. You reach into your change jar, and there it is, a penny that looks ordinary but feels different in your hand. You set it aside, maybe even clean it off a little. But then you notice something strange. The date looks unusual. The details seem off. You weigh it, and it's not quite right. Could this be it? Could this be the very coin that turns your spare change into a once-in-a-lifetime windfall? Dealers are rushing, collectors are desperate, and prices are climbing. Because in the world of coin collecting, rarity isn't just about how many were made, it's about how many survived, hidden in plain sight. But here's the twist that most people miss. These pennies don't announce their value. They hide it. Some of the most valuable ones look scratched, worn, or even dirty. And that's why so many are overlooked. One man's pocket change became a miracle worth nearly $1 million, while another man unknowingly spent his at a gas station. Start with the basics. First, check the mint mark, or rather, the absence of one. A true no-mint mark penny from 1989 can be special, but the value skyrockets when paired with other errors. Look closely at the date. Is there doubling in the numbers? Especially in the 9s? That's a key sign. Next, weigh it. If it doesn't weigh around 2.5 grams, if it's lighter, perhaps struck on a dime planchet, you may be holding a rarity worth 6 figures. Now flip it over. Inspect the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Look for faint lines, weak strikes, or even missing details. Every tiny flaw could add thousands, or hundreds of thousands, to its value. And here's the final piece of advice collectors swear by. Never dismiss a coin just because it looks dirty, scratched, or ordinary. Because hidden in that rough exterior could be the very penny collectors would pay a fortune to own. This is why coin collecting is more than a hobby. It's a treasure hunt. A hunt where every pocket of change, every old jar, every dusty drawer could hide a miracle. The 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has already shocked the coin world once. It turned a single cent into nearly $1 million. And it could do it again. This coin almost ended up being spent at a gas station, but instead, it stunned the coin world by selling for nearly $1 million. A simple penny, a 2017 Lincoln cent with a small letter, P, beneath the date, has been changing the lives of collectors who dared to look closer. Most people who held this coin never knew. They tossed it in jars, used it for coffee, or left it forgotten in the bottom of their cars. But one collector spotted something the world almost missed, and that discovery shook the foundations of numismatics. Because the truth is, this penny carries a secret. A detail so small that most people's eyes glance past it without a second thought. Yet for those who know what to look for, it can transform a single cent into a fortune worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The year 2017 was special for American coinage. It marked the 225th anniversary of the U.S. Mint, and for the very first time in history, pennies struck in Philadelphia carried a tiny P mint mark below the date. A mark so subtle, so ordinary looking, that nearly everyone ignored it. But this small detail set the stage for one of the most incredible penny discoveries of our time. Collectors began to notice unusual variations in these 2017 P cents. Some coins were struck off-center. Others showed doubling on Lincoln's profile, or even errors so bizarre they seemed impossible to exist. And in the world of rare coins, error means opportunity. But here's the twist. Not every error is obvious. The coin that shocked collectors the most didn't scream out its value. It whispered it. Under the right light, under magnification, details emerged. Details that turned an everyday coin into an auction room sensation. And when the gavel dropped, this penny, once worth just 1 cent, sold for up to $818,000. Think about that for a moment. Someone almost spent this coin. It nearly disappeared into circulation forever. And yet, by pure luck, it was saved, studied, and ultimately transformed into a treasure worth more than many people's homes. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News of the 2017 P mint mark penny's incredible value spread like wildfire. Collectors scrambled to check their change. Coin dealers were bombarded by calls. Families rushed to dig through jars and coffee cans, desperate to find the coin that could make them rich overnight. One man's pocket change became a life-changing miracle. Another collector described the moment he realized what he was holding. His hands shook, his heart pounded, because he knew this was no ordinary penny. He knew he was staring at a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The U.S. Mint struck more than 4 billion pennies in 2017. Millions carried the brand new P Mint mark. But among those billions, a handful were struck with mistakes, misalignments, or doubling so rare that they turned into priceless anomalies. Imagine the suspense. Every time you see a 2017 penny, you might be holding one of the rarest coins of modern America. You might be holding history. And if you don't look closely, you might spend it without ever knowing. Collectors are obsessed. Dealers are paying premiums. Auction houses are preparing for bidding wars. All over one small coin that most people overlook. 2017 was the first and only year Philadelphia since carried the P Mint mark. In 2018, the mark vanished. That makes this coin a one-year anomaly in the entire 116-year Lincoln cent series. A short-lived detail, tied forever to a record-shattering value. And yet, most people never even heard about it. The answer lies in a perfect storm of rarity, timing, and condition. Only a handful of the error 2017 P cents have surfaced. Each time, the discovery makes headlines. Each time, the price climbs higher. This was not just any year. Collectors already knew 2017 marked the U.S. Mint's anniversary. That meant extra eyes on the coinage, and extra excitement when a never-before-seen mint mark appeared, and finally, condition. The highest-graded examples, coins untouched, uncirculated, still gleaming as if they had just left the press, are the ones commanding life-changing prices. One pristine specimen crossed the auction block and sent shockwaves across the hobby, reaching that staggering $818,000 figure. Condition and detail are everything. A simple scratch, a touch of wear, even the faintest mark can mean the difference between a penny worth a few dollars and one worth nearly $1 million. And the suspense doesn't end there. Because while some 2017 P cents have already been discovered, experts believe many more are still waiting. In drawers, in piggy banks, in the very change people receive every single day. This is where things get truly thrilling. Every day, thousands of these coins pass unnoticed through cash registers and coin machines. Every day, collectors hope to be the one who sees what everyone else missed. And the odds may be better than you think. One collector found his by chance in a grocery store. Another spotted his in a handful of pennies his child brought home from school. Each story is a reminder that these treasures don't hide in museums or behind velvet ropes. They hide in plain sight, waiting for ordinary people to notice them. But what makes this coin even more electrifying is the emotional punch it carries. It's not just about the money. It's about discovery. About holding a piece of history in your hand. About realizing that something so small, so ordinary, can change your life forever. Collectors often say the thrill isn't just in owning the coin, it's in the hunt. And the 2017 P Mint mark Lincoln Penny has turned everyday pocket change into the most exciting treasure hunt in America. But the hunt is only half the story. The real challenge is knowing what to look for. So here's how you can identify if you're holding a potential fortune. First, check the date. It must read 2017. Directly beneath it, you should see a small letter, P, the Philadelphia Mint mark. That's your starting point. Next, examine the coin closely under a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look for doubling in the lettering, especially on "In God We Trust" or "Liberty." Look at Lincoln's profile. Any unusual doubling, blurring, or misalignment could mean you've struck gold. Also, check for striking errors, off-center images, missing details, or unusual markings. These are the mistakes that transform a common coin into a priceless anomaly. And most importantly, examine the condition. If your coin still shines with its original luster, if it shows no scratches, no signs of circulation, it could be the kind of specimen that fetches life-changing sums.